Everybody ready? Thank you. Good morning, everybody. This is the December, the end of the calendar year. And for Cincinnati Public and everybody else, but most particularly for committees as they are comprised, we change on calendar years. So that being the case, I want to thank everybody for all the work everybody's done prior to these days that are ahead of us still. Want to thank everybody for all the work everybody's done. My name is Eve Bolton, and I'm happy to be a board member and chair of finance. Rarely do we have any absence from this, but work demands are keeping member Craig from being here. But Mr. Crossett, if you'll introduce yourself, and we'll go around the horn, and everybody gets introduced as to who you are and what it is that you're representing. Sir.
Thank you, Board Member Bolton, for that amazing introduction to everybody. I am Jim Crossett, board member and member of the Finance Committee, and I'm very honored and pleased to be here. And happy holidays to everybody.
There you go.
I'll keep going. Thank you, Mike Augustin, Treasurer, Chief Financial Officer. Happy holidays to everyone. Also want to thank the board members on the Finance Committee for a good year of budget financing growth discussions, advice, guidance, and looking forward to next year.
Liz Martin, Assistant Treasurer and Controller.
Good morning, Lauren Haverkoss, Chief Audit Executive.
Carrie Armbruster, board member-elect. I will be joining in the new year.
Kevin Ashley, Director of Financial Reporting and Transparency.
Phyllis Davis, the board's administrative assistant.
Rob Wilson, technician.
William Johnson, Community Partnership Specialist, Moore Program District Coordinator.
Good morning, Sierra Badgett, Assistant Superintendent.
Good morning, Anna Burlon, Community Partnership Project Specialist.
Good morning, I'm Nan Haygood, State and Federal Programs Manager.
Good morning, Cody Hutchins, Contract Analyst.
Good morning, happy holidays. Josh Harden, Director of Athletics.
Good day, everyone. Shauna Murphy, serving as Superintendent. Happy holidays.
All right. We're going to get started. We have a quorum, and I want to make sure, Rob, we can find a way that'll be possible to get this up and running and available to the public, or especially to Mr. Craig as soon as we can. So that would be, thank you so much. Appreciate it. All right, Treasurer, get us started.
Do you want to have any reason to modify the agenda, or are we going as written today?
Anybody in time constraints? All right, let's go with it.
2 months in a row. Let's go.
I know, this is scary.
All right, we'll start with our monthly financials then.
Please do.
We'll start with Mr. Ashley down there.
Who has won the sweater contest today?
Well, thank my kids for that.
I bet.
All right, so I'm going to skip back, Rob, to the fourth slide. We do have that executive summary on page 2. Just kind of hits the high levels, but I'll talk about those as we go through.
Okay.
So slide 4, this is all funds cash and investment balance at the end of the month. If you look back to the month before, what you'll see is, and we talk about this a lot, you know, we're waiting on property tax advances to come in January. So the Star Ohio piece has gotten much smaller over the last couple months. And then operating cash is what we keep liquid to cover payroll and AP transactions. So we've made some moves to pull back some of the investments so that we can weather the low point. But we keep a good eye on that, or we try to, so I think we're good through January. Next slide breaks it down, the cash balance by fund. So general fund cash balance 71 million, debt service 44 million. The others are in line with where we normally sit for those. We'll go back to slide 7. Mike, if you want to touch on that one, or?
Sure. This is our kind of updated statement of cash flows for the month and for the year. Until we start getting property tax settlements, we will see these net decreases in cash for the next couple months. I would say we did receive around $5 million from the city yesterday as part of the new TIF agreement. So that was a catch up. So that was a nice little bit of money to receive. But for the most part, we will be kind of burning through cash until we start seeing the property taxes come in.
And when do we expect that?
We'll see money probably mid-January, with the bulk of it in February, March.
Thank you.
Pretty consistent with how things work. All in all, nothing really, no negatives this time, so that was good. Nothing really out of the ordinary, which is a good thing. I'll turn it back to Kevin.
Yeah.
All right, and then the next slide looks at our cash balance for this year and the prior 2 years, as well as encumbrances. There are always some nuances here, but it's the trend we've been seeing, and we are aware of it. Everyone's aware of that trend. So.
You might, for the public or whoever, repeat what that trend is that you've been watching.
So really that there's going to come a point where, as state funding has gone down due to changes made by the legislature, and then kind of looking to the future, things that are going to happen with property tax revenues going down. So that downward trend is putting pressure on our general fund to have a healthy, positive fund balance, because we really need to also have some reserve. We can't, if we have unexpected expenses, in addition to the fact that this trend is a headwind, so we just need to, keep those in mind. And I know the board has been very deliberative and very thoughtful in that process. So
Thank you for the explanation.
So Rob, go 2 more slides, slide 9. Again, this is general fund. One more. I ran through that one. So what this shows is general fund balance by month, really over the last 3+ years, 3.5 years. And again, it shows those peaks when our property taxes come in, around July, August, January, February. But you can see, each year our balance has gone down slightly or significantly, depending on how you look at it. Next slide is 3 years revenue by source. The third column is our current year. You can see our current year revenue through November, 281 versus last year, 294. Some of that's timing, like with TIF revenue, other revenues like that. There, by month there can be some timing issues. We do show here of what we anticipate for the year. We're at about 44% versus 46% last year. So we're pretty well on target with where we think we were going to be. The next slide is expenses. Kind of the same concept. Through November this year, 199 versus last year, 195. That's for just salaries and benefits. So obviously that's a driver there. The other expenses is a combination of things that are kind of listed on that first page in terms of transportation, and some of that timing issues, but also that, some additional expense there.
I got a question.
Yes, cross it.
Thank you. On the
Definitely a portion of it would be step increases, yeah. I think we typically see those at around 1.5%. Some of it could be some vacancy differences. There may be areas that are more fully, that have a full staffing. So it's just a combination of things, but definitely step increases would be part of that.
Thank you.
Yep. The next couple slides talk about preschool, kind of what we typically see there. All funding sources this year versus last year, 1822 versus 1909. So a slight decrease overall for all funding sources. That tends to grow during the year, but from one point to another, that's what we're seeing on that. And then the number of students that in some manner receive tuition assistance actually is down quite a bit
Yeah.
this month. I met with Director Brooks, and I believe she's doing a presentation in January to the board, I believe. So I think, she may be able to answer some of those questions. She did talk about, she'd be willing to come to finance, obviously at the board's discretion or the chair's discretion, if you wanted some additional information. But part of it is kind of the right sizing. And like I said, this month it went from probably about 600 to 579, actually a little more than that. It went down. One of the reasons too, I believe, is the last dollar in. So the early childhood has made a really strong effort to use all the available sources for students. And the ones who do receive some level of tuition assistance are those last students. So that's another reason I think for the decrease this month.
So it's the number of students or the number of dollars?
Mostly students between full-time, half-time. I think there was a little bit of a shift from full-time to half-time as well. But just looking at the number of students, it includes all of those, whether it's full-time or half-time.
Because I know when we made the cuts that we had to make, we did say that we could, how shall I say it, have fewer sites or fewer units and fewer dollars, but we would be still serving the same number of kids. Did that not happen, or is?
No, that definitely was the plan. I don't know where Vera is on the actual numbers. I think the last board meeting, there was a presentation about actual enrollment, and maybe it was a little shorter on the preschool side than we had planned. But when we did through the growth plan consolidate some of those preschool classrooms, that was what we had in mind. So I think there were just more children in particular areas where we have sites than what we had expected in some other areas in previous years.
Well, we'll get that follow-up from Director Brooks in January, and Ms. Davis, if you can add
misspoke.
that.
It might have actually been the last board meeting,
was
some of that information.
Yeah.
Time
It
all runs
was.
together with the holidays and all of that too.
Mr. Crossan?
It might also be interesting if it's possible to look at just the demographics of our community. I believe we may have fewer kids coming in, so I don't know if it's possible to look at that data.
I know some of the data they looked at included, birth rates 4
Sure.
years ago, and I do believe those numbers were down some. One of the positive things she mentioned about the right sizing and stuff is, students who might have to go further to a preschool site and then come back to their neighborhood school for first grade, kindergarten, first grade. Shifting some of these sites made that a little bit more that the student could go to where their neighborhood school was going to be. So, some of that takes time to grow the enrollment in those new sites maybe. But I think there's a lot of good work there to work on that.
Superintendent?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The board will get this in my weekly update today, but if you're not aware, one of the things that came to our attention this week that Ms. Director Brooks, General Counsel Hoing, and I are reading through and working on is there is a bill, I think it's a House bill, maybe it's 166, that wants to change or has changed the starting age for preschool. And so we do have some concerns about that, and then what that could mean by the number of students that we would have even eligible for participation moving forward. So an update coming to board members today. This is new, but I believe that bill has been passed.
And how would that impact it? Positive, negative?
In my mind, if there's a shift to the enrollment age ability to enroll a child, then it feels to me like it would have a negative impact on us.
As we mentioned to the public, both the preschool promise folks and us, when we decided not to expand the request of the renewal, the idea of expanding quality seats was really not the issue. We said we really can't afford to do so, but this would put a demand to do that, we're thinking, or?
I think that we would have to then look at the market share for the number of kids who could be eligible that we have not reached yet, if such a thing exists, would maybe change the focus of our work and where we have drawn young people from.
Okay, Mr. Crossett?
So does it mean the age is higher? I mean, what does it actually change?
Yeah, I think it used to be an August date. I think they're moving it to September or so. And I hate to be muddy about this, but yeah, it'll be definitely a more restrictive age.
Just by a month?
I'll get you the right information, Mr. Crossett. I don't want to misspeak.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you.
I didn't know that this conversation would come up in finance. I was preparing
Finance
to.
just loves
Yeah,
preschool.
all things. Yes. Sorry.
Even if it's not on the agenda, by God, we're going to do preschool. That's right. Okay, keep going. That's very curious and very interesting, very exciting as to what we could do about this. Oh, and we did have someone join us. Would you please introduce yourself, our famous guest?
Michelle Dunn at the Cincinnati Federation of Teachers. Good morning.
Good morning, Michelle. Thank you for being here. Continue.
All right, so I have one more preschool slide, which is kind of their
course.
financial statement. Really no surprises here. We didn't have a United Way payment this time, per our scheduled plan. No tax revenue, no additional tax revenue, I should say. So anyway, kind of on track with where we expect to be with that. So then it goes to state and federal grants.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. We're ready.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
I have all the exciting grants updates. So this is our cumulative spend for the year. Our target for this month is 28%. We're at 33%, which this is the 5th month of the 15-month grant cycle for federal grants. So that's, a reasonable place to be, I think, considering all the events of the year. We're slightly ahead of our target, but slightly, below last year with all of the delays. But I think we're making good progress.
I would say, though, that the federal government caused you to lose out there.
We basically lost like the first 2 months of grant spending.
Don't take it on the chin for them. And it caused us to become a litigant.
So all things considered, I think we're doing a pretty good job
Yes.
getting our money spent out in all the different departments and schools. Right now, we're right at about 53 million in state and federal grants. We should get, if you want to go ahead and go to the next slide, Rob. Our carryover updated to these slides because of all the other delays. Our FER was delayed. So by the next finance meeting, we should see about 11 million in carryover being added to the amounts that we have available to spend. So some of it has come in already, and we are expecting, the rest to hit by January to be able to be budgeted out. So that'll go up by about 11 million, about 7 million Title I, and the rest kind of more targeted. So as far as the individual grants, meeting their goals, again, 69% are at or above our goal. So everybody out there in the district is doing their job and spending this money to improve our performance.
And this, you might want to explain, like, we, here in southwestern Ohio, we don't like to say spending money is go for it, but the reality for our grants, we've had some history where we didn't get all of our grants spent and lost some of that money or whatever. If you can talk a little bit about your efforts regarding percent
Yeah,
of spend?
Absolutely. The state and federal governments are really starting to take a look at that. And, you know, their assumption is if we give you funding for identified purposes and you're not spending it in a timely manner, then you must not, you know, need that money, and we'll give it to somebody that will spend it. To the extent that they're now having whether or not you meet your spend goals is going to affect if you even receive additional allocations and carryover. So it's becoming a very serious issue politically to make sure that you're spending the money timely, that you're spending it on activities benefiting the kids this year. Like we want to see the money, you know, allocated and spent early in the year so that it has an impact on this year's report cards and graduation. And so, you know, I am happy to say that we are kind of turning that around and really trying to spend the money timely so that the kids can benefit.
Thank you for that explanation.
And so this, as you can see from most of our consolidated grants, again, you know, most of them are well at or above target. And as you said, I mean, our goal is not just to spend the money, it's to target the money towards, you know, appropriate, impactful activities that are gonna benefit our kids. And I think that we're successfully doing that. I've been trying to, go ahead and go to the next slide, spend a little bit of time each meeting just kind of covering a different grants-related topic. Last month, we talked a little bit about parent involvement for IDEA B, and so this month, I wanted to talk a little bit about Title I-A parent involvement guidelines. This is a really important issue for the schools, for the federal rules, and so I wanted to put this, you know, specifically the specific statute. And so really for Title I, because that money is designated 70% to be, you know, in the schools, getting spent on the kids, it really almost even goes beyond involvement to like really influence. Like they really want to see that the parents are involved at every level in the education, you know, right from the beginning of the year, the planning, the one plan, and it's just really integral. There's, you know, a lot of research that shows the more involved a parent is, you know, the more successful the child is. And, you know, really, you know, beyond just having them show up for conferences or show up for the Christmas choir, you know, they really, you know, are expecting us to have parents involved on a day in, day out basis, especially with Title I. And it's because we're school-wide, that really applies to all parents in the school, you know, that we want to reach out as much as possible so that every child is getting that extra benefit. And so I just want to, you know, kind of reiterate that currently it's required to give 1% of your total Title I budget to the schools to spend on parent and family engagement. And so this year that was $268,000, as well as, you know, some district money that's allocated. So that's about $975 per student in the current year that the schools have the flexibility to identify the best ways to get their kids involved and their parents involved with their kids.
And I think we mentioned this last month as well, because I think it was last month that you made a very strong case about the engagement when it was the district-wide LSDMC meeting. And the LSDMCs were not as familiar with that as you presented it. So this is the gold standard about engagement. And I think we even tried to, this is a few years ago, we tried to kind of encompass some of the things that are mandated by the feds into our own engagement policy. So this is crucial. It's crucial, and I appreciate you taking the leadership on that.
The next slide, you know, again, just to iterate, they actually say, like, you may receive your Title I funds in a school, in district, only if you meet these guidelines. I mean, these are not shoulds, these are musts, you know, and we do spend a lot of time on that. One thing I did do is on the Title I budgets that we present on here. I don't know if people pull those up regularly, but we did add the parent engagement spending to the spreadsheet that's out there. So it will show by school who's spending what, you know, and what percentage is spent as we're halfway, you know, through the year. And so we're focusing on working with schools that haven't spent as much, and all of it's not reflected in the spend. A lot of things are happening that aren't tied to spending money on events, but it is some sign of what's going on.
Actual engagement. Superintendent, you had a comment?
Yes, I do want to make a comment, and I'm so glad that this came up today. Maybe it was about 5 years ago, the board supported the new initiative around the district having a parent champion. And essentially, the goal of that parent champion was to ensure that every school had an active parent organization that was ran by the parents. And so we continue to work on that as students matriculate through their schools. But I did want to point out to the committee and to the public, Assistant Superintendent Badgett being in the room, that remains one of the goals that he has for himself this year, as well as for his team. So I just want people to know how valuable this is and how important we feel this is.
Thank you.
And then I don't know if you want to add anything from the programmatic standpoint, like, I'm focused on the money, but you're much more involved in what's really happening out there.
You are focused on the money. We do have Tracy Stillwell too. She works with the buildings to make sure that we're compliant with the Title I piece and the programming. So she's out in the schools educating our staff and families with Title I.
Thank you.
So,
Mr. Crossett.
As I'm visiting schools, I have one observation. I think I might have already shared this with the administration, but Gamble School uses their, they have an innovative thing where they use their open house, or not their open house, parent-teacher conferences combined with a festival. And it has greatly increased the parent engagement. So there's some innovative things going on that could be shared around the district.
It's a good idea.
Well, that's all I had.
That's it.
Happy
Any
holidays.
questions, comments? All right. Let's keep going.
I guess I'm up next.
Yes, you are.
All righty, so, well, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. So to continue our key performance indicator review, I have a few of my friends here joining me. First, we're going to start with athletics. So today we're going to update on athletics. Josh has, I think, 3 contracts that exceed the amount in question. So we want to go over things like how we came up with the KPI, why is it important, are we tracking it, is it performing the way it's supposed to, and is this contract on target to do what we signed it to do? And ultimately, that's what these KPI reviews are for. Just a few updates today. We'll do athletics. I have my friend Mr. Badgett here as well with his team for school and community partnerships. And then Mr. Guston will take over for the treasurer's office because we have a few contracts there. And then in January, we will do any additional contracts that got left out if somebody wasn't able to make it or if I missed one. So just kind of recap all the 200s. So at this time, Rob, if you want to click on that link, and then we will hand it off to Mr. Harden.
All right, I have 3 contracts here. I'll touch on each of them. First being our contract with Activity Beyond the Classroom. As many of you know, we've transitioned our larger contract with ABC, knowing that they're stepping into a big role with the growth of our district, and I believe it's Kid Future. Kid Future CPS. All right, exciting stuff. But in that, we just kind of transition. Some of the staff members that were working with ABC are now full-time CAS and CPS employees. And in those conversations, we talked about what does the transition look like with future contracts. And so we remain in a contract with them where they're supporting our athletic security, as well as just aligning the role of not programmatically supporting athletics and extracurriculars, but staying in the lane of fundraising. It's worked out really well to date. They have raised at this point $80,000. Their goal was $100,000, and with some future commitments, you can see that number hitting nearly $200,000. So kind of doubling that goal that we set forth in this year. A lot of the things that we've had thus far has been the soccer donations that have come in to expand elementary soccer, flag football, and different things that we've done in the fall season through single donations of donors, grants, and different things like that. So we're looking forward to continued partnership there. We also shifted and asked them to support some of our ongoing facility needs. And one of the ones that we targeted was the project at Woodward High School in the stadium there. Should I do all of them or one by one?
If I could interrupt, sorry. when you say they, we've asked them, are you talking ABC? You're talking Kid Future?
Yeah, so, yeah, good question. So when we're working with them, we've been operating as the partnership with Activities Beyond the Classroom.
Okay.
So not certain like what that transition looks like.
And
I think, if I may, I'm sorry, I think the work around any potential assistance with the Woodward Stadium could be under Kid Future CPS. So I think they're still doing the transitioning from ABC. They still do
an
have.
invitation to, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So, but for the stadium work moving forward, I do believe that's going to be under Kid Future CPS.
Mr. Crosset, our representative to Kid Future?
Yeah, we in the discussions we've had with Kid Future, I think we're still in the process, but we're trying to discern a dollar amount. In other words, if it's a really big project, that's likely to be Kid Future. If it's smaller dollars, it's going to be ABC or CPS doing it. So it's in process, but we're figuring that out. Is that fair to say? Okay. That make sense?
But transition always breeds confusion. And so
I'm not confused.
I am. And I don't mind saying that I'm confused.
Anyway, it's in process, trying to figure all that out.
Okay,
So, yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Does that help you?
Not really, but it's all right. And we're in transition. And there's two entities that are there, and ABC, there's not been a better partnership. In the 18 years I've been on the board, there's not been a better partnership. So that partnership is in transition too, so everybody's in transition. But I think there is a upcoming discussion, even today, I think, to try to nail down some of those issues regarding transition. But I'm glad you're here to help us explain this.
Yeah, I'd say on my point, where there may be larger scale from your standpoint, confusion,
Sure.
and more to come. From my standpoint in athletics, it's never been clearer. And I think that we've, said some, this is what it has been. There's been confusion within some of that. This is where we're at now, and this is where we're going. So in the field of athletics, the staff members that used to be over there and what we're doing and our athletics and ABC partnership, it's never been clearer.
And I think that's an important point, that
Absolutely.
that initial transition has occurred.
Absolutely.
With the change regarding the athletic directors and what have you. So, and then we still have ABC.
Right.
And certainly their faithful clientele that have been the only reason we've had extracurricular activities for the last 15 years is them. So this is confusing, but, people of goodwill for good purpose will get this clear. So thanks. Keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. So then our other contracts are two of our athletic training contracts. So one with Walton Mobile and one for Go4. Walton Mobile has been the group that stepped in a few years ago when we had our partnership with Children's Step Back. And they stepped in and provided athletic trainers, nurses, EMTs, physicians to support the schools that didn't have athletic trainers at the time. And then Go4 was a group that also stepped in last year as we looked to continue the conversations with Cincinnati Children's and our other partners to identify more athletic trainers. One of the big drawbacks was that was a more national group and not, local. We talked with them. They were able to partner with UC Health. And so we now have a partnership with them and UC Health, where UC Health provides the team doctors with those particular schools. They are providing 3 full-time athletic trainers at 3 schools, and Walton Mobile is providing 3 full-time athletic trainers, now split at 6 schools, which is 1 large school, 1 small school, being 1 school that has football and 1 school that does not. Both those contracts have been going really well. We've been talking with Walton Mobile on some expansion there for their athletic trainers, whereas they are full-time, to be more dedicated, and the potential of being at our schools a little bit more than they have been, similar to Go4 and some of the other hospitals. So right now we have, they are 2 of 5 partners that we have in the space of athletic trainers, and we've seen great growth. Whereas last year we had 7 athletic trainers, this year we have 11. And I do want to commend this group, the superintendent and the board members, because I think we came to this body maybe a couple years ago and just really shared how important these roles are for our kids. The board listened, the superintendent continued to remind that one of the big pieces that kind of put us in that period of not having athletic trainers was those hospitals needing a commitment early, and us understanding the way that our budget comes out, and the commitment was made early this past budget cycle, which did allow us to sit down with the partners and did allow us to move forward in a way that we are supporting our kids.
Which means we may need the same support for fiscal year '27.
Well, it is a budget 27 issue, and I want to, my point is, one of the reasons that this is an issue and resolved was the leadership of Member Weinberg. In her absence, we want to make sure that somebody on the board is continuing that championship. The other thing is, we have to remember that there are certain providers that that want to go where they can get additional customers based upon the income level of the students that are at that school. And yes.
I would just say, as the athletic director for my elementary school, I'm happy to take Ms. Weinberg's place in advocating for
Excellent.
our student athletes.
That makes me feel better already, and you will have.
Fantastic. We have an athletic director, board member.
See
I
now?
love it.
Make a
raised,
suggestion.
She raised board member
She
Weinberg.
embraces the
Yes,
challenge.
love
That's
it.
what we like to hear.
Josh,
Fill
she
that
didn't say
seat.
she's also a basketball coach.
So watch out. But yes, I think it's important, and some service providers don't necessarily want to serve the schools where indeed it is a matter of the Medicaid and all that kind of stuff. So this is that class division that we have to always make sure everybody's getting a proper service. So we have a person that's going to take this as a champion role. I love it, and keep going.
Love it. Appreciate it.
Good to go.
That's all I got.
All right.
Say thank you to Mr. Harden. Any final questions for him before we hand it off to Mr. Badger?
Treasurer, you good? All right.
Josh is usually a rock star, so not surprised.
Well, I tell you,
Well, thank you, Josh. And Mr. Badgett,
CPS grad.
your time to shine, sir.
All right.
Rob, you can stay there and just go to that tab that says 018. We should be good. I think these are mostly resource
So
coordinators.
our contract over 200,000 in the Office of Community and School Partners will be resource coordination. Just want to note that on this sheet, we have 6 lead agencies that are over the threshold of 200,000 plus, but that's not all of our lead agencies. So we have some lead agencies that only have 1 or maybe 2 schools that fall under the 200,000. So just want to make sure everybody understands that.
Thank you.
We do have a total of 13 lead agencies. 12 receive, are contracted through CPS, and 1 lead agency is self-funded, and that's Clicky, and they have 6 sites, 5 or 6 sites, but they're self-funded. So just wanted to make sure everybody understands that. When it comes to resource coordination, our KPIs are on 2 components. One is monthly attendance at the CLC meetings. So Community Learning Center meetings we have once a month, and we also have matrix meetings once a month with all of the schools where we give updates, just making sure that we're all on the same page, moving the work as the CLC model. And then the second piece component of our KPI is the monthly impact report. So one thing we started last year, well, it was there, but one thing we revamped last year was the impact report. It's a Google form that resource coordinators fill out and let us know what they're bringing into the schools. They give us an overall update of what's going on each month at those sites. And then we compile that data and we do it at the end of the semester, and then we compile it at the end of the year. So we can have a compiled list of who's partnering in what school and what they're bringing to the table as far as resource coordination. And then if you
Question,
click,
Mr. Crossett. Oh, hold on just a second.
That KPI where they're reporting in, that includes the partner name? There's like a spreadsheet that you
Yes,
should
sir.
maintain.
At the end of-
They're filling that out or providing that data. And when the resource, when the lead agencies apply for these contracts, is it an RFP process? And so that RFP process has requirements of how the lead agency is to fill that role? And does that enable us to evaluate whether or not some schools get more benefits than others in terms of what actually happens on those reports? And do we are we able to look at that from an equity standpoint? It's kind of my.
Good question. So we do look at lead agencies. The LSDMCs, they evaluate the lead agencies every year. They do a needs assessment in August, what their needs are, and then the resource coordinators working with the lead agencies go out and bring in resources aligned to that mission or needs assessment. We do follow an RFP process. I think it's on a 5-year cycle, 4 or 5 year cycle. So when that comes up, the lead agencies will have to reapply for the RFP. Just remember that the LSDMCs, they select their lead agency. So we'll have a list of, here are our agencies, and you can interview or keep the same one if they pass the RFP process.
This is a little different than the traditional RFP. Traditional RFP is you pick one vendor. And this one is multiple lead agencies always qualified. It gives us enough. I mean, we need enough lead agencies
True.
for all the schools. And I think, different schools match. I don't know. What I think is different school communities match better with different lead agencies. So this might be one where you have 10 or 12 agencies that get selected for the RFP, which is a little different than what people sometimes think about, where it's, one for all.
Yep. And the overhead too, being able to pay, front that payroll and then get reimbursed.
Member-elect?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Jim, as an LSUMC previous member and a school that experienced changes in their agency, I just want to say the lead agency also has, for lack of a better word, agency in this process and can decline taking on a school due to the resource restrictions of their own organization. So while they can be in the system, they can also say to a school, we don't have the capacity to take you on.
Yep. And I'll note, when I took the role as senior director last year, coming into the role, we had several schools that needed lead agencies. And we sent an email to the current lead agencies at the time, and no one was taking on additional schools. So we had to go out and hit the ground to get nonprofits to be willing to enter this work.
And does it ever occur that you feel like an agency or a resource coordinator in a particular school is not providing enough of what's needed, meeting the expectation of the LSDMC, and do you have to do something corrective or?
Yes, sir. So we work with those lead agency directors and we follow their process, their steps. Yes, sir. Yep. And in my department, they have schools, they're assigned. So Will has elementary, and also has elementary, and Tracy has the high schools.
Superintendent?
So just like the team works extremely hard, and they brought in at least 2 new lead agencies this year. Three. I knew that was wrong. 3 new lead agencies this year. So there are times when we do have to say to an agency, this is not working for the school and work in the best interest of the school. Sometimes we're able to find other ways to partner just on a different level. And so that goes well. The same is true for resource coordination. Those resource coordinators are the employee of the lead agency. There was a time in the district where we had a few resource coordinators who were employees of the district, but at this point, I do not think we have any in that situation. And so, yes, there are times where we have to say, with the resource coordinator, it's not working, and the lead agency will switch out that resource coordinator.
But a significant number of the people that are resource coordinators are being paid by public dollars that flow to the lead agency from the district. So that they're not employees, and I know there is dialogue yet always about the differences among lead agencies and the capacity and success of, or differing success levels for certain lead agencies. But it's something for budget 27, we were able to get through 25 and 26, making these good changes and not losing the resource coordination at all of the buildings. But I think even if we look down the road, it's my understanding that the Community Learning Center Institute is willing to take on 2 more schools. That would be a great effort, not only because that would be a financial boom for us, but more particularly the quality of their service is such that they tend to be this the standard, so to speak. So this is one of those areas, again, I'm making my list, Treasurer, about budget 27. You know what that means.
I'm glad she's looking at the treasurer.
So other questions, comments? We good? All right.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Badgett and your team. You guys are always a pleasure to work with. I do want to say congratulations and thank you to both of these two for coming in here today and speaking. Both these gentlemen are very easy to work with, never have a trouble with their KPIs, never have questions. Yeah, they provide all the information needed. So hopefully I can say the same about our next guest, Mr. Treasurer Guston.
In case you hadn't heard,
Right.
I bet you'll get a really good attitude there with it.
Yep. So yes, I will hand it off now to Treasurer Guston to talk about 2 of our contracts in the
Yes.
Treasurer's office that exceed the limit.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously hold ourselves just as accountable as we hold everyone
That's
else.
right.
It's important that there's accountability here. So R2 are our software licenses, Business Plus, and it's Alaview. Like, he's taking it. All right, is this better, Rob? Okay, thank you. So, yeah, so R2, like I said, our software, it's Business Plus and Allaview. We measure system uptime. And so both of these are on track. I think we've had long-standing relationships with both vendors that have been quite successful. You know, we are consistently one of the beta testers, one of the folks who are asked for comments. I know, especially with the new version of Allaview that's coming out, we were a beta tester, thought partner from the ground up. Get back to what Ms. Bolton says: we lead, we don't follow.
That's right.
So, and I think those long-term relationships have been very good. And so, yeah, both of those KPIs are on track.
Super.
Any questions for Mr. Guston? All right. Well, that concludes our KPI updates for December. Let me get back to my.
Thank you
monthly
for the
agenda.
work that you're doing. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms.
I think
Bolton.
it's
That
been a
means-
great add to what we do, is kind of testing the waters and getting the results, improving it.
I also
It
thank
did
you.
come up recently, you know, do people look at KPIs? Do
That's
we look
right.
at these things? And so, yeah, so we can
Very much
certainly
so.
say these are reviewed.
That's excellent. Well, let's move on then, if you're 30 seconds on the annual tax budget.
Yes, 2 things though before we go there.
Okay.
So, Mr. Hutchins does the per pupil analysis.
Oh,
every
okay,
month.
we're gonna do that first, okay.
So we've added another column.
Okay.
If you want to talk about,
Yeah,
you want to talk about your new column there, sir.
Absolutely. If you want to go to the next slide. So here, you'll notice a fun column that we added was transportation. I did edit the link down below. I apologize for who couldn't access it last time. For some reason,
all
that
right,
link
keep
didn't
going.
work, but. So we added transportation. I did work with Mr. Burkhart on this column to get, he had a very great sheet of breakdown of how Yellow Bus, Metro, everything is allocated to each school individually. So those were applied to each school to give us the full cost breakdown thus far through December. And then as we talked about, that all other districts column will continue to decrease as departments are pulled out of that column. A couple things to note on transportation. What I did not include, if anybody goes through there and sees that the budget does not match what's in Business Plus, that is because I did not include budget for FY25 then and nows, because those were last year's effects and did not impact the schools this year. So I did not allocate those in. And then also I did not include and allocate the services out from non-public schools, because we do some transportation for non-public schools. So I did not include those budgets here as well. If anybody would like to see those, I can get those numbers or get those breakdowns. Mr. Burkhart had that available. So any questions on how the process is going for this per pupil breakdown? Any comments, suggestions for improvement? I'm always open to those.
Treasurer, Mr. Crossett, member-elect.
I'm just curious, so this is the data. Is there
The analysis.
any analysis? I mean, do you look at this to come up with some conclusions or trends or concerns?
Absolutely.
And is that something that's reported today or in the future?
I think we're getting there. So part of this and that part of this exercise, I don't remember who suggested this. It was one of the members of the finance committee.
Probably me.
Probably you. was to get kind of what I'll call a real cost per school. So a lot of things are stuck under what we would call district expenses, but that's not really true. You know, I mean, we cost allocated things equally, which, you know, depending on the school, and the transportation is a great example where you can see there are definitely, you know, differences in cost. So the idea is to take that big district-wide bucket, continue to slice it, and drive towards real cost. I think one thing that Mr. Hutch and I talked about is, and maybe we'll do this next month, is looking at the school rankings when we started to looking to now, and I think you'll see those costs move. You know, you'll see that when all of transportation, all of facilities was lumped together, you know, these might have been your top 10 schools, say top 10 elementary schools by cost. But when you do this next level of digging in, that ranking changes. You know, and so I think there's a couple more rounds, right, of things that you're going to go into to try to dig into. And then I think it really paints a really good picture for the budget process of how much each of these individual buildings, you know, cost to operate and cost to educate kids.
Well, I'd like to just put a little history to that rather than necessarily when this started. This started particularly a few years ago, and I think President Moffett had something to do about refocusing us on per student cost and per building cost. My issue has been the per building cost on transportation. All of that dialogue for 3 or 4 years through finance and the whole board meetings, the full board meetings, it really made it very clear why we had to do what we did regarding ad hoc. We could not afford small schools. We came up with that understanding 3 years before Cleveland and Columbus have come up, or Dayton has come up with it. And largely due that you cannot, without a certain amount, and this is something that Treasurer Wagner always talked about, if you don't have a certain concentration of students, you can't fully fund the programming. So it's just too much expense, and transportation was the one that's most obvious, and indeed, that's why we have reduced magnets in this district at a time that we know that for 25 years, Magnet helped save the district and kept people in the district. So these are difficult times, but yeah, we'd like some more analysis, but some of the analysis took place and we can't afford it. That's the analysis. It's too costly. So, and unfortunately, not having the yellow bus for 7th and 8th graders, that superintendent had to come to grips with that for us and make that very clear that we had to make that sacrifice. And because we couldn't afford the difference between 7th and 8th graders on yellow versus 7th and 8th graders on Metro. So there's been analysis and there's been conclusion and statements that have been made as a result. But per student and per school, though, gets to be a problem because we shouldn't be talking too much about per school, per student. We should be looking much more at the aggregate, but because they're bored. Because you start to get too weird if you get too, but in the financial piece, we had to do per school, per student, and begin to kind of deviate from the larger aggregate governance that I think we had been playing for a while. But this is good stuff.
Yeah,
Transportation, $50 million.
It's a lot to transport, yeah. It's part of running the city within a city that is Cincinnati Public Schools.
And the other urbans are giving it up one by one.
Yes, I spent several hours with the CFO at Cleveland yesterday.
Oh, wow.
It was our quarterly urban school treasurer CFO meeting, which is both depressing and uplifting at the same time because we're all in the same boat.
Sure.
you know, the boat we're in is depressing, but the fact that you have peers who are in the same boat with you is kind of uplifting. But yeah, we went through a lot of their presentation, a lot of their work, and it's very much a lot of the work we had done. You know, it's a lot of the same themes from ad hoc is, you know, our school's viable at a certain number of kids, and I mean they have a beautiful PowerPoint presentation. I know.
It's magnificent.
I think all of our board members have seen it, but it was shared. But anyone else out there is listening, if you want to take a look at it, I'm sure it's here. But it's a beautiful PowerPoint. But they really talked about, you know, making schools viable and getting kids into upgraded buildings that were modern. I mean, I think our FMP, we took care of that.
Thank you, taxpayers.
Thank you, taxpayers, years ago.
$1.7 billion, 78% of which was locally funded.
Yes.
I don't know any other school district this large that could say that.
That is for sure. We spent those billions of dollars to get, and they talked about, you know, very clearly the offerings at the schools. And it's interesting as we go through the budget process. We talked about how many elementary schools didn't have anything past PE, art, and music. But, you know, I know from our budget process how many schools now have tech. How many schools have STEM labs? Like we've done that work. They talked about how many other high schools didn't have any career tech or any sort of career tech offerings. And now with their consolidation, now all their high schools are having this sort of things. And it's funny because I think we've done a lot of this work in pieces, you know, and they've just
Over time.
they've dropped like the one big PowerPoint where we've worked this over years.
Yeah, and applauding people like Eileen Cooper Reed, Susan Cranley, Melanie Bates. These are people, Catherine Ingram, who said there must be music, there must be art, there must be PE. Oh yeah, we got to add that tech thing. It was usually that afterthought, but it's important.
So it's interesting where they're getting to, and I think if you compared our district, like we're there.
We're there.
All right.
Continuing?
Shall we talk tax budget, Mr. Ashley?
This is it. Do it fast, because we're going to repeat it soon, right?
We only have one slide.
Uh-oh.
Just giving you a bit of a preview, just as a reminder of the requirement. Higher vice required to be done.
No. Turn your mic on.
It's just add it to the list. Yeah. So anyway, there's a requirement, it has to be filed with the county in January. We have to publish, we did a publication in the Inquirer that we were having the tax budget hearing so that the public is aware of that. Also, as part of that, we included that our annual financial report unaudited is available for inspection. That's another ORC requirement.
Wow.
So we just piggyback on that for that notification. The county, Hamilton County has the option to provide for a modified tax budget versus a full-blown tax budget. As far as I know, it's just a form difference. It's less information required on the modified. I've never had to do the full, so I'm not 100% on that. But that may change going forward with some of the changes in the legislature. We may have to do a full. I think there's talk of including 5-year forecast or 3-year plus 1 budget forecast. Also, other funds besides general fund, which we do include the general fund and the debt service because that relates back to the taxes. But mainly that's what it is. It allows the county, they've already given us preliminary rates. This will be for tax year 26 collected in 27. So we're always talking a few years out. But the next step after we submit the tax budget will be, they'll ask us to set the rates. The county will provide us with the rates. And then in May, the board has to accept those rates. So.
And it's very perfunctory that we pass this at the organizational meeting as quickly as we can.
So yeah, on the 12th.
I think the deadline's the 15th, so we don't.
Cutting it close since we're starting late.
We did not leave ourselves any extra
Better not
time.
have any snow.
Right.
Right.
All right, we'll be calling a special, we'll be calling a special meeting.
I have a good friend from Mississippi, and she says that snow is a 4-letter word, and I think the superintendent's beginning to feel that same way. All right, thank you.
So I guess now the moment we've all been waiting for.
The moment, and to, as we move to the moment everybody's been waiting for, the discussion, as we look down at number 5, we have resolutions that just have to be passed
Yes.
at the, this meeting and then sent to the board for the 12th. Does any board member have any question or comment about the resolutions regarding our audit committee? We good? And the chair? The chair and vice. And the audit committee's already taken that action, and they just are sending it to us for approval. And Mr. Crossett, do you approve? I do too, as our veteran audit committee member, long before he was on the board. So that's, consider that part of the agenda is done. Or we get in trouble with Lauren. And then we don't want to be in trouble with the internal auditor. There's a lot of people we can say, hey, okay, but not her.
We might want to remember in the board meeting to thank Dan Holthouse, who was a chairman for, what, 4 or 5 years? Did a great job, and
That's a
so,
great idea. Why don't you make sure that you do that as a kudo too? That would be great. Good, that's a good thought, Jim. All right, hit us.
Here we go. All right. We're going to talk taxes, debts, all that good stuff. All right, next slide, Rob. So here are my caveats. A couple of things. So assumption number 1 is that the tax reform bills that are on the governor's desk will be signed as written. And so any place new stuff is in there, I tried to update these slides. So you'll see the word new, kind of noting things that
Okay.
are going to change. I am going to assume the Hamilton County Budget Commission will not reduce the rates of any of our current or future levies.
And we had some assurance stated publicly
Yes.
and repeated by our wonderful auditor and the auditor, the prosecutor, and the treasurer
Of this county are
all
the-
friends of CPS
Of the Budget Commission, they have, yes.
and very fiscally responsible people
And we
who
appreciate
believe in democracy. And after people vote a tax, it should stay voted.
Well said. Well said. I'm also not considering any other pending bills. And we're not considering anything in the Fair School Funding Plan at this point. So to talk about taxes, we're going to consider that that anything pending we'll deal with when it comes through, because there are tons of bills pending in the legislature,
Okay.
most of which die in committee, thankfully.
So we're planning based upon these assumptions?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so next slide, this is some fresh information. These are the assessed values for tax year 25 to be collected in 26. This was from the auditor's office as of about 3 days ago, so. Yes, anything that the county does is gonna be calendar year, anything tax is always calendar year. And tax years are always a year behind real world years, because we like to make things simple in Ohio. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. So yeah, there's a person to give a shout out to. Tim Steiner in the county auditor's office, works for County Auditor Miranda, does a great job of communicating
Right.
with all of us, with our evaluations, with our tax rates, all that stuff. So shout out to Tim.
Go county.
Yeah, here's our assessed values. It's a little bit less than last year. So interestingly, residential went up a little, commercial went down a little bit, but they're very similar.
Is there any reason for that you can think of?
I assume some people won their board of revisions, and I know this was the most banner year for board of revisions, and then I think on the residential side, you get some new construction. You also get the new construction of things coming off of CRAs. So that always helps us out as CRAs expire, those come back into new constructions. So I would say but it's very similar. These numbers are very similar, which we would expect between between assessments. You know, you see very little change in values until a reassessment's done.
Okay.
Okay, so for our purposes, we're gonna say 1 mil of collections is about $9.25 million of money. Okay. So next slide, I pulled this one from the presentation we did at the last board meeting. These are our current levies, and we're gonna use this. We're gonna use this several times to explain where we're at today, to inform where we want to be tomorrow. Some of the millage rates did change slightly. Someone pulls them out. I mean, it was decimal points, but part of what the county does is recalculate the millage rates to make sure, especially for the bond levy and emergency levies, to make sure they will bring in the amount of money those levies are for. So. Again, they're decimal points, but the numbers are slightly different. Like, I think bond levy went from 3.27 to 3.3. We trust our auditors for that. So, next slide, we'll start with inside millage. So inside millage is a share of what's under the first 10 mills. Every taxing agency has that. It is shared between kind of the original folks there, so us, the county, the city. We get 4.9 mils of that, or 4.19 mils of that. That's our share of that. The beauty of inside millage is it grows as property values increase. So it's not subject to any reduction factors. The new thing, so House Bill 335 limits the rate of growth to inside millage.
Yeah.
So it will only grow as of the rate of inflation. So that means as these reassessments happen, we will not see the inside millage growth. If you remember from a couple of years ago, when we had a jump in property tax revenue, the two drivers of that, one was inside millage, the other was the 20 mil floor.
Right.
We're not going to see that again.
And that means millions of dollars we're not going to have.
That will probably there will probably be some millions of dollars we will not have. So,
And that would start in what years if this goes through?
So let's see. Our
Which
next,
it's going to.
Yeah, our next kind of reappraisal is a triennial update. It's in 26, which means it would hit us in 27, calendar year 27, right? I'm trying to think. It hit us in calendar year 27, which would be half of the 27, 28 fiscal year. Am I right with that, Kevin? I know, this is
He's going to answer.
Yeah, so the reappraisal will happen for 26. That will be tax year 26 values, which will be calendar year 27 collections, which is for us half of fiscal year 27.
Yeah, that's
and then
right.
a full in fiscal year 28.
It'll be the end of the fiscal year 27 and the start of fiscal year 28. That's right.
All right.
Yes. So, I mean, we could get to the thing we don't know, the two variables, and this will come up multiple times, is we don't know how much property values are going to increase. And I don't think I have a real idea of that. And then we don't really know where inflation's been. So inflation's at like 3% right now. I mean, the latest estimate was about 3%. So you cumulative that over the same period. So like it might not be that bad in some ways. Like if the 3-year inflation is say 9 or 10%.
We bet at the groceries, but
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? If the 3-year inflation is 9 or 10% and the property tax increase is 12%, then they're pretty close. The property value increase is 30% and 3-year inflation is 10%, then you're going to see a significant decrease in what we would have gotten. So this is a whole lot of variables that are in the future, right?
and the items that are on this chart, it's what we have.
Yes.
It's not anything, okay.
Yes, so I mean, we get about $38.5 million at inside millage.
Okay.
So assume that's going to continue, and then with some slight growth in future years. All right, the next slide are the current expense levies. So these are what we call the fixed rate levies. They're from 1976 to 2000. There's several of them. They will continue to reduce. So they've been reducing for years their effective rate. This is House Bill 920, which was passed back in 1977. It basically says property tax levy should not increase for inflation. So every year every year as property values go up, the millage rate goes down.
Right.
Until you hit the 20 mil floor. So a couple things. One is because of one of the pieces of legislation, our emergency levies are going to hit the 20, are going to count against the 20 mil floor. So we're not going to be on the 20 mil floor anymore. So it'll take us a couple years to get back there.
And that impacts us in what way financially?
That's going to impact increases in revenue at reappraisal, right? So, and then when we get to the 20 mil floor, then House Bill 186 is going to also cap the amount of increase we'll get at the 20 mil floor. So, I mean, the big picture, which I said in the last board meeting, is the property tax system got even more level, and that whatever you have today, that's what you're going to get. And expecting more money is going to be harder to do. Now, the one good piece of news is if we do a new current expense levy, we don't have to worry about getting above the floor. So one of the conversations that we had when we talked millage with Treasurer Wagner was, like previous years, is we'd have to put on enough mills to get above the floor. So
Yeah.
if we were at an effective of 17, you would have to add 3 mills to get above the floor to whatever you wanted, which would have made a much higher looking request. So there's a little bright lining in that big tornado cloud.
You're reaching, you're really reaching.
I'm trying. Superintendent
Shauna
Murphy
does
always,
like
she
positive
always wants
stuff.
me to be more
I
positive.
know,
I am trying to be more positive. Yeah, I'm trying to find a silver lining in this tornado, okay? I'm trying hard.
there you go.
Right, so,
Mother Earth. Go
so
ahead.
if you'll hit the next slide, Rob.
Question?
Oh, go, I'm sorry.
The current expense levies of 41.66, the dollars that the district receives from those levies will be flat, is what you're saying? And that's how many dollars? Is that, it's about, it's a pretty big number.
It's a good number.
It's like 380 million or something. Not that big.
Kevin can calculate it pretty quick. If you,
Working on it right
I
now.
don't know off the top of my head, but
if you hit the next slide.
the one thing I would add on those current expenses, and like Mike shows on the slide there, the initial rates added together was 41 mils. The effective rate for residential is now only 15 mils. So those reduction factors have always been in place and hold that down. So that's no change currently. So just to point that out. So in terms of dollars, it's a similar dollar amount, but the rate that each taxpayer is paying is much less.
Yeah, if you'll go to the next slide, Rob. That's the thing, yeah, as you can see, over years, the reduction factors have reduced. And so, yeah, we're effective rate of 15.8 and 23.2. I mean, those have dropped every year and they will continue to drop.
It'll go down.
Yep, so. All right, if you go to the next slide. All right, and then finally, the emergency levies. So we have 3 emergency levies. The one we just renewed in November. Thank you, taxpayers. We have one coming up in 29, one coming up in 32. These will require some decisions from the board. So the new law, so current law right now, after the veto override, is that these things, when they expire, they're gone forever. The legislation we expect the governor to sign will allow us to convert these into what are called fixed sum levies. Which we have the option to do that, or we have the option to do something different. Fixed sum levies have a maximum length of 5 years, so we can't do the 10-year anymore, which we had strategically done to kind of slow down the levy fatigue.
Right.
They will count toward the 20 mil floor. The other good thing, I guess I forgot to put this on the slide, is that if we kind of convert them from merging to fixed sum levies, the older levies that were pre-2014 will still get the property tax credits, which is an important thing for property tax owners, is that the property owners will still get the tax credits. And so it's something that as we look at what we want to do with those, it's something to keep in mind. So there are some credits for older levies. The last one, the $48 million we just passed is so new that the credits have never applied to that. But the other two. So there are decisions that have to be made in 29 and 32. And then if you'll go one more, Rob.
But 29 and 32 are the ones that are listed here.
Yes. Yes. They will expire if we don't do something, and we cannot keep them as emergencies. So at a minimum, we have to convert them from emergency to a fixed sum. All right. Rob, if we'll hit the last slide there, talk about the bond levy. So this has been around from 2003. We burned the mortgage December of 2031. It's a beautiful thing. It's a
huge
beautiful
celebration.
thing. I mean, it really is. We are, I think, as Ms. Bolton said, we're one of the only school districts that has done such a large program, and we're on track to pay it off. I know there are other districts who have started down this path and are now trying to figure out how to pay off these things, but we've stayed fiscally strong through the entire course of this, through many boards, many superintendents, many
Yes.
treasurers. If you think about it, we've stayed tight with this. We have a lot of options when this expires.
Oh, good.
The levy will expire. You can't renew it because it's a bond levy. So the bond levy is kind of like a mortgage. So you took your mortgage out, you're going to pay your mortgage off, your mortgage is done. But there are options there. You can't renew it, but you can replace it with something. And so there are a couple ways to go there. If we have bond levy eligible expenses, those would be anything that is a capital asset over 5 years. Generally, that's buildings, building renovations, and it could also be, I'm afraid to say this, it could also be buses, it can also be some technology, but anything that you can do a bond levy on. We have a couple options. So one option is if the new request is less, which is what we've talked about in the growth plan discussions, you can do a lower millage levy for the same number of years. For the taxpayers, that effectively lowers their taxes, right? So you were paying 3.3 mils for this. The new bond levy could come in at 2 mils. Everyone's getting money back. You could also do, I see my typo here. You could also do higher millage for fewer years. So this is one of the things that I talked with Brenda Weimer, who's been a
Big
great,
brain.
yeah, she is. She's great, but she's an expert in this field.
She is big brain.
She is expert in the field
Whatever
of,
she
of
says.
tax levies and all those things. We can do higher millage for fewer years. So you don't have to go 30 years. If you can keep the same millage, so you could stay at 3.3, but you could do it for, say, 10 years, a 10-year bond levy, depending on how the size of your ask. You could also do a lower bond millage and then do some combination of permanent improvement. I think this is popular for a lot of school districts. To say, we've invested in these beautiful buildings. Now we want to use some of this money to pay for the ongoing maintenance of these beautiful buildings. And so a permanent improvement levy does that. It brings in a steady stream of income every year that is dedicated to those improvements. Again, things that have a life of more than 5 years. You can also do a lower bond and then combine it with operations. So now you can try to get some operational.
You
money.
can combine those.
This is where it gets interesting. This is where Brenda and I had some interesting conversations.
Okay, because I'm familiar about the combining.
You would probably, if you went operations, you'd probably have to do two separate questions. PI, even she was not sure where the current law is.
Okay.
Which is kind of crazy, but between House Bill 96, the veto override, and all the new bills, there is still some uncertainty about what you can put in a ballot question at this point. So yeah, so this is as we get closer, these things will settle themselves out, right? We're not in the spot where we're going to in the near future do anything to bond levy. We still have several years of this. You wouldn't really put anything on the ballot until 2030, probably. I mean, just looking at a calendar, you don't want to be much before the existing levy expires. Because you would do the election in 2030, collection to start in 2032. That way it's smooth for your taxpayers. They're not seeing a jump or a bounce. It is really interesting what will be allowed in 2030. I will say that too. This is not a settled issue of law or.
I'm happy to hear this because I've been targeting that big year. But I don't know that the board is thinking in terms of wanting to wait that long to start to do the maintenance plan, because that was proposed 3 years to us, or 2 years ago, and is all kind of there. And I know that I think Mr. Craig is particularly interested in it before we try to do something new. So I think that I'm glad to hear what you're saying. I just think that there's lots of board discussion to be about that. But I do think it's such a banner thing to have the FMP paid off, and then you do something big as a result. But my understanding from you, and I think this is the understanding the board has, is that we need some money now.
I would agree with that. I think
So,
we'll get into
but-
that a little bit.
Okay, so let's talk,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
All right. No, I'm
think-
excited about the 30 thing.
I think the thinking with the bond levy is very much like it's going to expire.
Yes?
And you have an opportunity to do something that won't raise taxes, maybe even lower taxes. I mean, how many times can a school district have an opportunity to go
That's,
and tell the public, we're actually going to lower your taxes
yes.
from what you paid? And yeah, an opportunity to do something big. So if you'll hit the next slide, Rob. This is kind of a timeline of where we are by millage. You
Oh,
can
yeah.
You can see there's three big points where actions have to happen. And then obviously there are spots where alternate, and there's plenty of spots where actions could happen, but there's the 3 things that are called out there are spots where we have to do something. Especially the emergency levies, like that is operational money. I mean, you could let the bond levy expire and say, thank you, we appreciate it. Those emergency levies are everyday operational funds. I mean, you would have to make significant cuts if we let those expire. I don't think anyone's thinking in that range, so.
No, and the word renew is always a good
Yeah.
messaging word.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about what we could do, kind of new options.
Please, let's do it.
All right, so Rob, if you hit the next one, there are multiple options available. We've talked about some of these. Current expense is your fixed sum. You can do 1 year, 5 years, continuing. It is part of the 20 mil floor. You can use it for operations or assets. I'm going to define assets very broadly here as any land, building improvements with a 5-year life. So fixed sum, we just talked about that. The new levy, 5-year max, but again, it brings in a fixed amount of money
Yeah, sure.
every year. School district income tax, that's an option. We'll talk about, I have a couple slides about that. And then there's a permanent improvement levy. Only real difference with this is it's for assets only. So if you decide to do a permanent improvement levy, that money is going to permanent improvements. You can't redirect it to salaries or any sort of operational stuff. You have to be very, very intentional. That's where you want the money to go. I mean, the nice thing about a current expense or a fixed sum levy, an operational levy, you can always take operational money and use it to buy assets.
Right.
You can't go the other direction. And then the same thing with bond levy. Again, it's used for assets, not for operations. All right, Rob, next one. So,
Well, let's see, is there any questions about
sorry.
any of those? Okay, go ahead.
Talking about the school district income tax, I think that's the one we're least familiar with here, just because we haven't done one of those in Cincinnati. There's 2 tax bases. There's traditional or earned income. Traditional tax base would be your income when you file your state taxes. So it's your state adjusted gross income, and you'd pay a percentage of that. Earned income is on salary and wages. Earned income does not tax retirement, does not tax investments. So it's really wages. You're really looking for wages. School district income tax applies to the residents of the school district. Unlike where like a city income tax applies to the people who work in the city and live in the city, the school district income tax only applies to the folks who live in that school district, regardless of where they work. Ohio employers must withhold and remit to the Ohio Department of Taxation. So the state will collect the money for you. Obviously, income tax is percentage based. So as individual incomes increase, your revenue is going to increase. It's one of the only ways that we have that there is some growth built in. If wages go up, your increase. And another thing that's kind of nice, and as we talked about with our monthly financials, the district gets monthly payments once these things are set up. Yes, so it's not the twice a year that you get with property taxes. So it is a more steady stream of revenue, which I think Kevin and I would be happier if a more steady stream of revenue. Some days it's that way, but those are the way it's different. Next slide is just a quick, this is about a year old, so it needs update a little bit, but David Conley, another one of our cherished advisors, provided this to us, and just kind of gives you an idea at each tax rate what the equivalent millage would be and how much money it would bring in. So, and you can see traditional tax versus earned income. Obviously, if you do traditional tax, you'll get more because you're taxing more things, right? All right. So all of that said, Assistant Treasurer Liz Martin here helped out with doing some sizing scenarios for new money.
Oh, good.
So we're going to throw some ideas out there and let people
Let's
react
do
to
it.
All right. So we did 3 scenarios. Each one has a different kind of range of money. This is a mathematical exercise. So
That's why I'm twitching.
Yes, as we work to develop, and as Superintendent Murphy and I work to develop strategic plan, these things start to get put in with ideas and initiatives. But scenario 1 is 4% salaries and benefits per year, and then we kind of step that down to each scenario. Non-personnel, we stayed pretty close to inflation rates. And Liz, I know you pulled inflation and you were.
Yes, the 2.9 is the average of what it's been for the last 6 months. And the 2.6 is the expected for the next year.
Yes, and then to talk about facilities repair plan, scenario 1 is the full amount of the facilities repair plan broken over 5 years. And then I had some conversations with Mr. Burkhart, and we did a 40% and a 30%. I had the conversation, what's the minimum you can get by with out of this total plan, to do the things that are emergencies.
And this is a plan that was done 2 years ago.
And it's been updated a couple times. It's updated from
Okay.
time to time, so.
I mean, I would just assume that plan would probably have to be more than updated.
Yeah.
I mean, as a result of the transition and the creation of the middle schools, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, okay.
But yeah, and then the final column there is just a new initiative set aside of just different amounts. So this is an annual amount just for new things that the district needs to do or wants to do. So again, mathematical exercise to try to put some numbers in front of folks.
Yeah, the dialogue, okay.
Right. Other thing I would say is personnel, the percentage there, that's kind of a catch-all. So it would include your step increases, include any COLAs, could include any additional staff as well. So if we said we're gonna do, all those things would get pushed into the 4%. All right.
Well, not to sound crazy, but those seem to be minimalist scenarios. And what I've kind of started to hear, that third level of board dialogue that's been happening in front of the public is the idea of not always being at a shoestring. not always trying to impress people with just how fiscally responsible we are, but not always having to cut something to get something. Or is, who is it, I think it's Ben who talks about, wanting the salaries to actually be really competitive, that if you teach at Cincinnati Public, you should be the highest paid teachers. And he says that all the time. So, that's, these scenarios go, this is how we've been functioning really since the facilities master plan, as you mentioned, for 20 years. And it's hard. It's good, and I think we have a good reputation in part as a result. Mr. Crossett?
Well, you meant salaries, but also incentives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Incentives, yes.
Yeah, and
Incentives have to be negotiated, but the salary, salary too.
But they can be impactful on that.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's definitely a conversation. I wanted to wrap up as we look at these things, because it goes to, I think the concept of productivity. So and I put this in the last slide is, how much more efficient can this district get? And we, if you look at our budget, like we're not, I'll use non-personnel. We're not increasing non-personnel at 2.6% a year or inflation. We've actually probably decreased over time, right? And so part of it is, I think the and of this is, I think to be financially stable, we need to raise new money, and we need to continue to increase productivity. I'll use productivity as a phrase that encompasses a lot of things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I don't know it's to increase productivity based upon scarcity. You can increase productivity and not have to function under scarcity. You just are going to be more productive because you have more of something to do.
It's true, yeah.
I don't see it as that you're only going to be productive if you don't have anything. You can be productive if you've got something too. How much time do we spend? Think about how much time we spend in support of, even the most important thing we do is supporting our kids. And you really actually look at personnel, school by school by school. I know that the aggregate number doesn't look like it, but there's not, standalone, teachers is quite small compared to all the support staff. And I'm not talking support only of clerical or support administratively. I'm talking about support for those kids. Those school budgets are very interesting to me, where you have classroom teacher versus you have the intervention specialist versus the psych versus this, and you wonder why is that? Because our children need all that. Our teenagers even need it more. Okay, but I don't know. I just don't like the connection that it's productivity is about scarcity. We've had to do that, and we've asked people to spend their entire career here on scarcity, doing the best that they can. So it's just something that kind of concerns me from the standpoint of that.
Yeah, it's the idea that, I think in a lot of places we are very thin. I think when you really look at how many people you have in a building, in a department, to do all the things that they're required to do, it can be very thin. I know. We hear from the schools. You have a couple people out sick, and it becomes a real barrier to getting things done. And it's not. It's just because we don't have this super deep bench of people that can just that just keep going in. And yeah, you're right. You're right.
Jim?
I do think, though, that the message that we might want to be able to portray when we go to ask for new money is that we are efficient.
Well, yeah.
It's going to be important to have both. And efficiency can be gained even when you're not faced with scarcity.
Right.
So that's going to be important.
I think that's right. And to be responsible, for sure. I think that's crucial for the messaging, but also results. And unfortunately, people still think that we're not getting the results that we should be getting. And it's usually the people that are least involved with us. But that's all part of it. And the judging what the results are being determined by people that really aren't very supportive of us to begin with. So, the test we get to measure whether or not we're being assessed is not necessarily our friends or figuring out the assessment tool. But no, I think this is all so good.
Being assessed by people that don't particularly like.
Don't particularly like us.
All right, so let's look at some scenarios, shall we?
Let's go, keep going.
All right, so
Loving this.
Scenario one, this is 4% personnel and benefits every year. This is 2.9% this year, 2.6% for everything non-personnel. Fully funding the facility repairs plan, and having an extra $5 million per year for new things. That could be whatever new things are needed for the district. That gives you a total need over 5 years of $547.6 million. So that's about $109.5 million per year. One of the things that we talked about when we did this, which is kind of one of those tricks of levy planning, is thinking for 5 years. I know this isn't always the way it's done, but traditionally places that do a 5-year levy look at the total need, divide that by 5 years, understand you won't spend that money in the first 2 years.
Right.
You should break even in the third year, and then you should spend more than you're collecting in years 4 and 5. It does take some discipline, for sure. It takes some discipline from the board and the administration to say, we know we're bringing in more money this year, but we need to save it for years 4 and 5. That can be difficult, but that is how most of our peers who have levies, especially non-school districts, do it.
Right.
Like I worked, when I worked with the Children's Services Board, that's how we looked at the levies. 5 years, bank money in years 1 and 2, break even in year 3.
That's right.
Spend above in years 4 and 5, but that allows you.
That cycle.
That allows you to do an increase in a cycle, and it gets you out of a cut cycle, right? So you're not in a constant cut cycle.
Which would be great.
Which we've
I think
been.
Superintendent would really enjoy that.
Superintendent would love to not be in a constant cut cycle, right? Yeah. So it's like I said, it's about $109 million a year you would need. That would be 11.8 mils of property tax.
No,
That's a big number.
that's the double digit. No, but okay, keep going.
It's a big number, so I just.
It's all right.
Okay, so then we have I'll call this the mid scenario, which is the next one. So that's 3.5% salary and benefits increase a year. Inflation increases about 40% of the full amount of facilities plan. So the concept we start here is that we would do kind of the most critical facilities for those years, and then think about it as part of the new bond levy, or when the bond levy expires, you would push those costs into that, right? So you're prioritizing the safety facility upgrades, the critical ones.
So you're thinking with the FMP gone, then something big would happen that year.
Yeah, then you would roll the unmet facility needs into what you're thinking at the end of the FMP.
Member-elect?
Yeah, just wanted to call out, when you say mills needed, you're talking about property taxes, but you also, in the income tax, you have the millage equivalent. So there is also an alternative to a double-digit millage increase in property tax option.
There is.
Okay, just wanted to point that out.
Very, very good, very astute point there.
That's right.
I am also, I am trying not to put my feelings into this.
Mike wants an income tax, and let's be real.
Let's be real, okay.
Absolutely, they all have to be there.
That's real, but yes, I'm trying to leave my personal feelings out of this. Okay, so.
You're doing a good job.
Yeah, so that's scenario two. That's 394.7 million total. About 78, almost 79 a year, so that's about 8.53 mils. So we're in the ballpark, right? Yeah, 8 mils I think is a magic number people have talked about. So that's out there. And then scenario three, is a lower scenario. So now we've put back, we're looking at 2.5% salary and benefits increase, cut inflation down to 2%. Again, it's talking about us getting more efficient in our non-personnel spending. 30% of the facilities plan, which is kind of the minimum, and then $1 million for new initiatives. And that gives us,
Thanks. Merry Christmas.
282.5 million new needed, 56 million a year, and new 6.1 mils of new money.
I don't like 3 at all.
They're there. There's a range. We can work between the ranges. I'm happy to do as many other scenarios as you want. Liz built me a really nice tool.
Oh, good.
I can plug in a couple numbers and we can.
I knew she was smart.
Very smart. Yeah, so we can plug in whatever numbers you want, but that gives you an idea of where you're at. We're somewhere between 6 and 12 probably.
Jim?
Yeah, I wondered, maybe it's not necessarily for this scenario exercise, but it might be interesting as you continue to develop that budget by school or expense by school that you presented earlier. And I think you still got there's that column in that spreadsheet that has sort of like other expenses. That's the column you're going to continue to refine. But it might be interesting. I don't know if it's necessarily you want to present it here, but at some point it might be interesting to have that line item in these scenarios that's personnel services. If you could delineate that between student facing, which might be the school budgets, and non-student facing, because that might be impactful for voters. And it might also get to Eve's point about let's do something that's not related to scarcity, but related to impact. And I think there would be some support from the business community and our city council and everybody else and the chamber. They would love to see our school district be, a 4 in terms of our overall score. And that would have a dynamic effect on attraction for people to want to live and go to our schools and establish employers in our city. So that might be something to break out that could be interesting. And it could be a whole nother scenario. It could be scenario A, which is a scenario that says, let's not look at scarcity at all. Let's look at impact, right? Is that okay?
Yeah, I think Mike points it out on his last slide, that the strategic plan is going to be incredibly impactful for any of this. I don't think any of these scenarios matter if we don't have a vision, because the business community is not gonna buy in, they're not gonna support any of these tax potentials if we don't have that impact opportunity. So if we don't talk about efficiency, if we don't talk about impact, it's not gonna matter. So I think the next 6 months will be incredibly important in what that vision for the future and what we would do with any of these dollars is the most important thing we'll do in the next 5 years.
Fun stuff.
That sounds.
She likes that stuff.
Yeah, I absolutely, I think, hit the last slide there. Strategic plan is gonna be really important for where we wanna be. I think, the political side of this is the ask, and what are you asking for? And ask me to keep up with inflation, that's not really good. I don't think any people are gonna sign up for that, right? Let me help you keep up with inflation, right? So what that buys the community, what our request buys the community is critical. Does that buy them, a district that's a 4-star? Does that buy them new career, workforce things? Does that buy them, improved neighborhood schools? Does that buy them, buy their kids new opportunities? I do think efficiency is a thing to talk about. Again, not that, beauty of the scenarios is we're just throwing numbers in. So I can say, hey, this is a 2% increase in salaries. But what does that, or 2.5, but what does that really mean when it gets down to it? Does that mean that, there's a COLA for this, there's incentives for these folks, but we're also, but we're also not doing other things, right? We're, say through retirements
And there's an impact on employee retention with that too.
Right, so there's a lot of variables into this. But I think the purpose was to give you a couple ideas of what an ask would look like from millage rates, from where it is, and to really look at our real dollar spend and say, as these trends go up, and we have a lot of choices to what to do with that money, but this is the kind of money that we're looking to need.
Good job.
And then,
Very good job.
Thank you. And then my final reminder is, there is a lag between our ask and getting money. And so we also have to keep that in. This is not like going to the bank and getting a loan and figure out that there is an ask. I will say, the delay is much shorter with income tax.
And there are monthly payments.
I mean, just saying. But, these are all things you have to think about, as we look at timing for a new money request. Like I know we need a good story to tell, but you also don't want to wait so long that by the time the new money gets to you, you're forced to cut things that are critical.
Well, that's what I've mentioned before, is that, I think the FMP, burn the mortgage, we would be fools not to make a connection with the public. Because that was the public's victory. That was their act of faith in us. And hopefully by us being able to pay it off, and the district frankly still being around, which is not necessarily in the picture.
I would not say it's not guaranteed, right?
It is not guaranteed, because the reality in that FMP, note, where the state said we were going to be at somewhere 27,000 kids, and we were not going to grow at all. So, and looking back on it, that was a real thing. And the reality too is that there are 22 school districts in this town, in this county, and not all of them are going to exist. And people are going to want to know where to send their kids. I mean, we could be besides the elite suburban districts, okay, with the income and the tradition and the history that they have and the lack of diversity that some of them have. The reality is that we might be the last one standing. So, and that's not that far away. 2 or 3 school districts right now that are on death's door in Hamilton County. So, we have to make something huge about the FMP piece. But we have to have finances now to even get to that 30-something, right?
Yes, I would agree with
We
that.
don't have.
What do you mean 30-something?
The
2031?
end of
Okay.
31.
Yeah, 31, I think, in my opinion, is 31 is the opportunity to do the next round of building, asset maintenance kind of thing. That you would take the bond and you would replace it with another sort of long-term thing. That you would say, we built these great schools.
Yeah.
but hey, we might need a new high school on the west side. Or we might need to.
That's why we're holding on to that property
Right.
at Heinold.
Right, we built some great schools, but we might need to renovate some, we might need to add a wing
We
here.
probably
We
need
might-
to make Walnut bigger.
We might need to make Walnut bigger, we might need to add a stadium here, we might need to,
Yeah.
add- you know, like, but people.
Aiken.
Well,
We might need to
swoop.
add- we need to add some more farmland to Aiken, or maybe one of those vertical growing things.
Yeah.
Jacobs? I heard the word
We
Jacobs.
still have the Jacobs property.
Yes, we do.
So,
I mean, we're holding on to stuff and we're also getting rid of stuff that we need to get rid of because that's part of holding on to the 30-something.
right,
Okay, but we have wonderful acreage on the west side. That could be a magnificent big career tech school that we could build there, or something that Superintendent Wright talked about, would make complete sense to me. You move Dater off the west side campus, and that becomes the new Dater where Heinold property is. That way West High, the great icon that it is, has the actual room and opportunities that it needs and stuff. I mean, this is the kind of big stuff we have to be talking about, and we can't keep talking about stuff that we've already talked about. We can't keep talking about smaller kind of stuff, because this, to your point, the next 6 months are deciding the next 5 years, maybe the next decade. And for me, you know me, the third century. So I don't mess around.
I mean, we recognize our population shift.
Yeah.
The population shift westward, you know, you take advantage of that, but at the end of the day, like, we need new operations money.
Now.
soon. Yes, now. Again, to go back to how much more efficient can we become, I think a lot of folks would say, you know, I am as efficient as I can be.
Yes.
You know,
And I've
you know,
heard that.
Since COVID, you've asked me to do more with less, and do more with less, and do more with less, and I can't do any more with what we have. And so yeah, we need operational money for operations.
And we do know the community, business community and residents and everybody else, especially our superintendent, wants a huge initiative regarding career tech. Huge pipeline. Everybody's like, even at the world worrying about, you know, AI and what does that even mean? So, yeah, there's big stuff. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to just give a thought out there regarding the strategic plan. To your point, I think would behoove us to include in our strategic plan thinking and analysis and data collection what these other school districts in our county are doing, and begin those conversations now if there's opportunities for us to increase our impact and financial situation if another district needs help. That should be in our planning. Does that make sense? Okay.
I know Toledo is talking about that reality, and they're not in as good a shape as we are regarding planning ahead. They've got tremendous challenges.
They're in fiscal caution right now.
Yes, they are. So it's very tough everywhere you go. Other ideas, comments, thoughts? Yes, ma'am.
If I may, just two quick comments, and I think this goes without saying, but it feels like the right time to just reiterate. Of course, when we talk about efficiency and best using taxpayer dollars, it does become a point of diminishing return when our budget is cut so deeply that we get to a certain point that we cannot afford the proper controls, and then we start to enter this point of regression. We don't want to see us to go that way after all these years of hard work to build ourselves into efficient and well-controlled structure. So I just think that's a really great point as we say, yes, do more with less, but also at a certain point that really does become a significant risk. So I just wanted to share that from an audit perspective.
Excellent. Thanks, Lauren. Did you pay her? Superintendent?
I did not.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, and retaining teachers. I mean, these are difficult times.
I mean, there's a big question of what kind of district does this community want? What kind of district do you want CPS to be? I mean, you know, you look at other urbans, and a lot of them are cut to the core. You know, they are cut to the core. They are brand new teachers that are in and out in 2 or 3 years. You know, because the retention's down. You know, they don't offer nearly the programs we do. It's very, there's no high schools of choice. There's no concept of a walnut, an SCPA. There's no Montessori programs. Those are all things that our community has banked on for years and invested in. And, part of it's what kind of district are we going to keep? Are we going to keep these investments?
Well, from the visionary standpoint, so there is a group of us who, next week during the break, we're going to be scoring the submissions for the strategic plan RFP. I'm very grateful for those who are willing to come in next week. And the goal is, what we did this time is have them also submit videos, and we will watch the pitches for the top 3 scores. The goal is for the January 12th board meeting to bring a name to the board, hoping for approval. We are already starting our conversations around creating an advisory committee to vet and sort through the data that will result from the work of whichever company we select to help us through this process. In addition to that, we have early in January, I think it's around the 13th, an opportunity to visit Ignite Institute, which is a huge career and technical education facility that if you go to their website, Toyota says it's their basically their gift to Northern Kentucky, where people have bought in to support that type of investment. Being a former career and technical education principal, it is extremely important that when our kids leave, they leave with a strong portfolio of what to do next in their life. And so I see this next strategic plan being a leveling up of the success that we received from focusing in on the 3 E's: employment, enlistment, enrollment, but ensuring that we know where our kids are once they cross that stage on graduation day. So the visioning part, I love. I'm very excited. There are people coming to the table. The budget part is not as exciting for me. However, there are still people coming to the table. We just had a conversation with some central office folks who are super concerned about the budget, as they should be. And the transparency and the truth of that is, at least this next year will continue to be challenging for us, but we'll work together. We'll get there. We do have opportunities for more efficiencies to be put in place. Some of the things are very popular to Cincinnati Public Schools and to the city at large, but there'll be very challenging conversations that we just have to have.
Your comments? I appreciate that. I think that's all, obviously all part of what we're wanting to do today and what we'll keep doing in finance and in the board itself. The advisory group, board members have they submitted names yet?
So
for lists or what?
yes, great question. So this advisory group that I'm imagining will be about a group of 15 stakeholders across our district. In today's weekly update to the board, I will be asking if there are names to be considered to make up this group of 15 very diverse people to help us with this work.
And the strategic plan has to be done.
So it is due to you June 30th. So I think there's a June 28th board meeting scheduled. So for implementation when we start school in August, there is a June 5th. I don't know what it is.
Now,
22nd, maybe? 22nd, I think.
The June 22nd is the board meeting.
Yeah.
But the reality is that it's supposed to be done in 6 months, but the reality is the strategic plan almost has to be done even earlier than that if it's going to impact the 27 budget.
That's correct.
Sort of like contemporary, kind of like parallel workflows, right?
Yeah,
Right, so as you get to this point in the plan, you get to that point in the budget, you have to kind of parallel them as much as you can. It is a tight timeline.
and that strategic plan also then means that we would have to be making some of the decisions in the next 6 months about some of these scenarios that have been presented, in part because a lot of this will be a part of what the strategic plan is. And we said the strategic plan was going to be a 4-year strategic plan. Is that what I recall?
And your charge was that it is aligned to our finances.
So all of that is happening in the next 6 months. It's the strategic plan, it's the budget.
It's a busy time.
Yeah.
It's fun stuff.
It's a busy time. Plus doing all the other wonderful things we do here.
On a daily basis. Yes, sir.
Advisory committee, is it, have you thought of, or maybe that'll be advice from the strategic planning partner, but like how often they meet, how much time they have to dedicate and that sort of thing. I mean, that might be information that would be, you might have some partners that we want that will be excluded if the time commitment is,
So,
just
yes.
as, you don't have to.
Well, I would love to share my early thought about that, Mr. Cross, and I'm sure I'm going to learn in a very short period of time. After we make the selection that we will seek the board's approval of, I plan to have a conversation with them very, very quickly and very, very deeply and just give them some of my thoughts. So even if a person can't participate at the advisory level, there are going to be many listening sessions,
That's what we did.
many ways to gather their thoughts. So there may be other ways. For example, I plan to ask for 2 principals, one elementary and one high school. That's in my head right now, but that doesn't mean that all of the principals won't be able to have some input or an opportunity. Same for central office, same for parents, same, the Federation will definitely be invited to the table.
Oh, no.
So, yeah. There will be plenty of opportunities for, yes, sir.
The last strategic plan we did was awful. Yeah, that's right, you didn't. It was awful. It had almost no community engagement whatsoever. The plan before that one had tremendous community engagement. And if I recall correctly, there was, at the center of all this, as the board has to decide, period. I mean, that's not going to be some other, whatever. But you had a core advisory group, is what perhaps you're talking about, that was community and diverse and whatever. And then you had this next kind of orbit of people that couldn't necessarily devote all the other time. And then you also had multiple times where the community participated in kind of open discussion and rating things and what have you. So the strategic plan that we went through the last time, it was more an instructional, I won't even say strategic plan, it was more of an instructional implementation plan. It didn't really do the visioning out as to what we were going to be doing. So frankly, the ad hoc efforts was more of a strategic plan than the actual strategic plan. Now, in those 18 million years, there were at least 7 or 8 years, there was no strategic plan either. But we all survived that as well. So, I mean, but we have a real opportunity right here to do something very exciting. And it's a confluence of historical dates that are kind of coming together. Does anybody have more items, comments, thoughts? Hit it, kid.
Hi, this is Michelle Dunn with Cincinnati Federation of Teachers. I just wanted to weigh in on the conversation around efficiency. We discuss quite often among our teaching professionals, the significant spending that's gets approved on privately owned for-profit curriculum products in this district. And it's not just about the one-time purchase, it's also the licensing fees and the renewal fees and the upgrades. I mean, once you get in with these curriculum products, you could just look at every treasurer's report and you see we're constantly having to throw lots of money to keep those products going. These products also have been causing problems with the fact that they're not wholly aligned with state standards, so that when teachers are being evaluated, they're both getting dinged, so to speak, on not using the products enough, but then when they're evaluated, they're saying, well, you're getting dinged because you're not aligning to state standards. This is a problem. The most recent appropriation to spend $350,000 on a pilot that said that they themselves, the vendor said they couldn't deliver on any real deliverables until at least 2 years out, in our view, is an inefficient example of spending of precious public dollars. So we just want to add into the conversation, maybe continued deeper look at how we're spending on curriculum products. Again, like you said, Board Member Eve, we went for many, many years with books, and we did just fine. And so maybe it's a time to take a new look at these products that we're engaging with and how much they're really costing us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here today. I appreciate it. Other words of wisdom, things to talk about for us. One thing I do want us to not lose is something we did this last year. Superintendent, you were involved with this, and it's my bugaboo. I still believe in student-based budgeting for our neighborhood schools, and I want some thinking to go there. We did a lot of work on it. We found it didn't work very well, or we didn't have the right people in the room to make it work for high school, and it was difficult for our specialized elementaries or our Montessori's, I should say. But our neighborhood high schools, the PK6s, my feeling was that I think working with Treasurer Wagner and Julie Sellers and a couple of other folks, superintendent, it seemed to work for them. And I think that's part of an engagement thing. It's a messaging thing. I mean, my last bugaboo is that and poor superintendent has to live through me saying this all the time, we don't even have our CPS narrative together. I don't think our foundation has a narrative to sell this district. I think as we think about this, we need to develop that message. Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
That could come out of the strategic plan, it has to.
Yeah.
I think the other thing you just brought to mind, it's something to think about. I'm sure Mike's already thinking about it, but there will be an impact on our future costs based on the corridors. And I
Pray God, yes.
don't necessarily think you factored that into your scenarios yet, but I mean, that's something that could help us too, so.
I mean, again, that's the high level efficiency. If we can keep students in their corridors, you save transportation money. I think there are a lot of ideas that are starting to pop up about corridor level people, corridor level programs, which is kind of exciting. I know I know just some things we've worked on where, we're assigning people to corridors, which I think gives better service, because you're not running all over the district. But you also might not need as many people, but you're more focused. And so there's a lot of ways. Efficiency doesn't mean do more with less. It might mean reinvent the way you do things. I do like the idea of the narrative. I think that's a critical thing for both strategic plan, for new money requests, for just general, what's our elevator speech?
Well, and much of whatever our narrative is going to be is not just going to be the vision for the future, but what we have is a great history on which to build. if we actually lived it out and we took everything that we've been trying to do, took it to a high quality and kind of an equal kind of quality, whether it's something as simple as community learning centers that we invented, whether it's really empowering LSDMCs in a way so that schools are kind of governing themselves. I mean, things we've believed in, and that's why we're still here. It's not like we have to come up with something completely new, although I'm happy to do that. You know, it's that people, look at how long it took. I mean, 50 years ago, people were making sure that the recreation centers were close to the schools. People long before any of us were making very important decisions, and that's one of the reasons we're still here. And it's about LSDMCs, it's about community learning centers, it's about partnerships. You talk about the money, and this last thing I'll say, talk about the money. How much money does the town give us? I'm not talking city council, but we couldn't exist without partnerships. Our children would have very little if it weren't for partnerships, but that doesn't come on a tally sheet. It doesn't come on a tally sheet. Cooperation between among the unions and the administration and the board. That, you don't see that coming out there, but that's also, so we need to think about the reasons we're still here. And as well as like how cool we want to be as we move forward. I'm into being cool. I know the superintendent likes to be cool.
Let's be cool.
She said, what? Anybody else have some stuff to talk about?
I
Please.
just want to say one thing on the tool that I built. So these sizing
Yes.
scenarios are
Oh, thank you for doing it too.
sort of the 30,000 foot level.
Sure.
So as the strategic planning goes forward and the board and everybody starts to get specifics, I can build those into the tool so we can drill down and say, like, here's
Well,
the
you'll regret
10,000
that.
foot. There's a limit. We can't go underneath the ground. But you know, we can use this tool to sort of give more precise predictions as specific things arise. I just wanted to talk about that.
Well, I'm excited. I'm very excited about our finance team, everybody upstairs and all around. And I know that we got the right people in place to get us to the next level.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay.
And I was going to say same thing. I'm very tickled pink with Treasurer Guston and the direction and the voice, the language that I'm hearing it. There's so much alignment with what we're trying to do instructionally for and with students. So this is fun stuff.
Cool beans.
Cool. So let's finish on two positive things.
Please do.
So we got the letter, our 2024 financial report. Got our annual GFOA Excellence in Financial Reporting.
Yeah, baby.
Award.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby.
Yeah, which they used to send it. So they used to send us a plaque.
Oh,
Every
so now they
year?
don't even do that?
No, they did.
Pizza?
No, they sent us a plaque now that has 10 spaces. And so every year, then they send you like a little thing so you put the year up. But we'll take a picture
Well,
of
if
us.
you increase the board budget, we'll get another plaque for you and we'll.
Yeah, exactly. Look how much more efficient we're getting. But we should be happy about that. Maybe I'll do a kudos for that for the 12th.
That'd be great. Absolutely.
Yes. And then
another
the
positive.
last thing, just wanted to, we have a member of our financial team, Janet Burlove, who's retiring
Yes.
at the end of this month, and just wanted to publicly thank her for her years of service. She's done a great job with a lot of departments. She's worked with student services for years. She worked with early childhood, Director Brooks for years, and she's just been a steady presence in the financial accounting stuff and done some great work.
She will be missed.
We will miss her.
Thank you for saying that. Well-deserved comment. At that, I think it's time to adjourn. Do I have a motion, Mr. Crossett?
Yes. Motion to adjourn.
And I second
Second.
that.